So hi there. I'm Mr. Reef. I am one of the media arts teachers at Lincoln High School, coming to you live from my house. Typical 2020 style, right? So there's three of us here at Lincoln High School currently that teach in the media arts pathway. I'm just one of those teachers, and I'm going to be leading you kind of through the media communication portion of this wheel experience that you are taking currently. So currently at Lincoln High School, I mainly teach media communications, which is why I'm going to kind of lead you through this portion. But as things are developing with the new high school, we are kind of splitting things apart, and I will still be at Lincoln High School teaching media communications and some of the media arts classes. But the majority of the media art classes and the other two teachers are going to be going to the new 12 Bridges High School. So depending on where you go, will definitely impact who you end up with as a teacher. But again, if you're interested in taking photography, video, or graphic arts, most of those classes are going to be at the new high school, 12 Bridges High School, and they're going to be with the other teachers. Lincoln High School will still have, hopefully, a small selection. We'll see media arts or media communications, maybe some photography, maybe some video. That's still kind of in the process of being worked out. So as you're probably already aware, media communications is the intro course for the media arts pathway. So if you're interested in taking photography, journalism, graphic design, video, any of those classes, this is the first class you really need to take. It kind of introduces you to the software we use and a lot of the foundational ideas that we use in those other courses. So this is kind of the intro course. So it's the course you typically take your freshman or sophomore year. So next year, going into Lincoln High School or to 12 Bridges High School, if you were interested in taking a media arts course, this would be the one you'd most likely take. So that said, for this first lesson here, I'm going to kind of talk about a number of things. So the first lesson, we're going to cover how to find a picture on this website called unsplash.com. So it's a great website to get some free pictures that aren't copyrighted. So we're going to use some images from there. We're going to download them to our device. We're going to learn to create a new document in Photopea. I'm going to mainly use Photopea just since it still seems like we got a lot of people at home, some people at school. Again, it's a lot easier to do in Photoshop. Photoshop tends to work a lot smoother since it's a real program. But since everybody has access to Photopea, I'm just going to kind of focus on teaching it in Photopea at the moment. But we're going to create a new document. We're going to learn to import that picture. We download it into the new document. Then we're going to make some adjustments to it. We're going to learn how to rotate it, resize it, move it, warp it, add some text, add some shapes, add some color, have some fun. All right. Add a little bit of layer style. So we're going to go over all that in this lesson. So here we go. All right. So first thing we do is we're going to find a picture on this website. It's called unsplash.com. So UN and then splash.com, unsplash.com. So I'm going to go ahead and open up a tab here so we can start working. So unsplash.com. So again, Unsplash, really great website. It has a lot of free images that you can use that are copyright free. You can read up more on the license. It's not super important for what we're doing here at the school, but it's a very nice website. So I'm just going to find this for this first project. It doesn't really matter what image we use. Any sort of image should work. Let's see here. Mr. Reef is a big fan, you'll learn, of chicken tikka masala, which is Indian food. Unfortunately, I looked earlier and I could not find chicken tikka masala on here. But they do have Indian food, so I'm going to look up some Indian food here. Find an image that looks good. It looks pretty delicious. A number of other good images here. Let's just go ahead and stick with this main one here. So I'm going to go ahead and choose an image. Again, you guys can choose any image you want. Whatever you want to search up something, find an image you like. Go ahead and click on the image that I like here. And you'll notice up here at the top, it says download for free. So I'll go ahead and click that download for free button. And that'll go ahead and download it onto my computer or onto my Chromebook. Hopefully into my downloads folder. My computer's set up to ask me where I want it to download and what I want it named. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it with the original name here and save it into my downloads folder. All right, so there we go. I have my photo that I'm going to use. So now I need to go ahead and open up Photoshop or Photopea. Again, if you have access to Photoshop, I do recommend doing this in Photoshop if you can. But I'm going to go ahead and run through it in Photopea just because I know a majority of people, especially if you're at home on a Chromebook, you're not going to have access to Photoshop, right? So everybody has access to Photopea, even though it works a little bit slower. I'm going to go ahead and we'll do it in that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to Photopea. So it's Photo and then PEA, like photo P, like P that you'd eat. I don't know how it's pronounced. I pronounce it Photopea. Some people pronounce it Photo P. I don't know. But Photopea or Photo P, PHOTOPEA.com is the website. And so this is an online version of basically Photoshop, right? It's kind of a good copy of Photoshop. And when you go to it, just automatically opens up. And so this is cool. It'll run on your Chromebook. It'll run on your computer. It'll run on anything. So it's kind of a nice website. Again, because it is online, it does, it runs a little bit slower, has a few glitches to it, but otherwise it works pretty well. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to create a new document. So in Photoshop, we call it a canvas. I don't know if Photopea has a name for it, just new project, right? But basically that's the area that we're going to be working in, right? So we need a page to work on, right? So we're going to go ahead and create a new project. In Photopea, it gives us the option to name it. So we're just going to go ahead and name it. I'm going to just go ahead and name it Lesson 1. And we're going to go ahead and just make it a standard sheet of paper. So standard sheet of paper, I don't know what that is in pixels, but I do know what that is in inches. So we're going to work in inches. So first thing we need to do is change this right here from pixels to inches. So we want to work in inches. And we know that a standard like photocopier piece of paper or notebook piece of paper, right, is 8.5 by 11. So that would make 11 inches the height. That's how tall the piece of paper is. And the width would be 8.5. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and set my settings to. So 8.5 by 11. And then we have this thing here called DPI. So DPI stands for dots per inch. That's the quality. What kind of quality do we want to work with? So the higher the number, that's the more dots per each inch. So that's going to be the higher the quality. So we're going to go ahead and actually crank this up quite a bit. And we're going to go ahead and work with a 300 dots per inch quality because we want to work with a real high quality. So we have lots to work with. All right. So again, width is 11. Height is, oh, wait, no, I got that reversed. Width should be 8.5. Height should be 11. I don't know why. I'm a little dyslexic. I guess I mixed that up. So if I want to flip those, I can just hit this little double arrow here that flips them back and forth. There we go. Now that looks like a sheet of paper, right? Now you can work 11 by 8.5. It doesn't really matter for this assignment. But I do want it to kind of look like a piece of paper, portrait style. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, 8.5 by 11. And we're going to go ahead and hit create. All right. So that first off gave me my document here, my background. So now let's see the next step that we're going to do. So we downloaded the picture, we created a new document. So we want to go ahead and import the picture into our file here. So you notice, right, this is just a white piece of paper. So we want to take that image that we downloaded, put it on here so we can play with it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go up to File, the menu here across the top. So this is Photopea. This is kind of our layout here. So you notice across the top, I have some menu options: File, Edit, Image, Layer, Select, Filter, View, Window, right? All these things. There we go. And you'll notice along the left-hand side here, I have a bunch of tools. So we'll go over some of these tools. Definitely, if you take Media Comm, we'll spend a lot of times learning all the tools in here. But there's our tools here on the left. So there's a Move tool. And I think some of the other tools we'll get to in the next couple of lessons is the Lasso tools and the Marquee tools. So just kind of these top couple tools here. And then over here on the right-hand side, you have your layers. And those will become important later. Your background layer. And yeah, we'll talk a bit more about layers as we get there. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go up to the menu and we're going to go to File. And we're going to go ahead and go to Open and Place. Now in Photoshop, if you're using Photoshop, they do call it Place Embedded. But Photopea here calls it Open and Place. So again, very similar, but slightly different language. So we're going to go ahead and go Open and Place. And we're going to find that image that we downloaded. For me, it's right here at the top, right? Because the last thing I downloaded in my downloads folder is set up with the most recent thing I downloaded at the top. You may have to search through your downloads folder a little bit to find your image. Again, even if you're on a Chromebook, it is going to be in your downloads. So that's where the Chromebook automatically saves it. And I'm going to go ahead and hit open. And it takes it a second here. And it uploaded the image. Now this image is really big. It's kind of taking up the whole page here. If I want to shrink it down, I'm going to go ahead and click on the top tool here is the move tool. So it's a little arrow, little cursor image with a couple arrows next to it right there. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and click on the move tool. I'm going to go make sure that this box that says transformation controls is checked, because if it's not checked, then I don't see those little boxes in the corner. I need to see those. I'm going to click transformation controls. That lets me see these little boxes in the corner, and it'll allow me to resize my image. So I'm going to go ahead and shrink this image down just a little bit so we can work with it. Now you notice I just clicked and I'm dragging on it, and I can kind of squeeze and stretch this image any way I want. Now that's not super good, because that means that I can end up with a really distorted image like this, which I really don't want, right? So I want my image to kind of remain its original aspect ratio, right? So I want its width and its height to stay relative to each other the same. So I'm going to go ahead and edit undo my changes there. So Control Z is edit undo, or you can go up to edit and choose step backwards. So what I'm going to do is in Photoshop, I think it's set by default that it automatically keeps the aspect ratio, and you have to hold down the shift key to make it change. In Photopea, it's working obviously as the opposite. So what you can do is hold down the shift key when you resize, and that kind of locks things in so that it doesn't change up the aspect ratio on you. So I held down the shift key. I'm going to shrink it down. And now I'm going to go ahead and click and move it here into the middle a bit. All right. So again, so I can use this move tool, obviously, to move around my image. And then again, as long as I have those show transformation controls checked, right over here at the top, then I will see these boxes and I can resize my image. If I don't have that checked, then I don't see that option, right? And all I can do is move my image around. Now you noticed once I started to resize my image, once I clicked on one of these corners, my options along the top here changed, right? And so they kind of change. And then once I have it set where I want, if I hit the enter key, it'll go away and it goes back to the regular options. So again, the options kind of change depending on what you select on. So first thing we're going to talk about is one thing we can do with this image is we can rotate it. So to kind of mess around with it, we're going to go ahead and experiment with rotating. So again, move tool, make sure show transformation controls are checked. And if I go over to one of these corners where I used to resize it and I go a little bit further out, I'll notice my arrow changes into this little like kind of half circle arrow thing. And that's the rotation tool. So I'm going to click, and I'm going to click and hold with my left mouse button, right? My regular mouse button. And I can drag left to right, and that'll rotate my image. So I'm going to rotate this image a little bit. So that's one cool thing I can do to the image. Let's see, what's some other stuff I can do to it? There are some other features here, again, in this transformation tool. So again, once I clicked on one of the corners, that brought me into kind of the transformation tool. And as we'll see here along the top, there is a button that's called warp. In Photoshop, it's a little slightly different icon. But if we look here at the warp tool, that'll let us do even some more crazy stuff to our image here. So once we click on warp, we can click and drag on one of these corners here. It's a little bit slow on Photopea, right? And we can kind of make it look like a wavy document here. Again, unfortunately, since we're doing this over the internet, it's really slow. This tool works a lot better in Photoshop, right? A lot more responsive. So right now I'm clicking and it's taking a long time for my clicks to kind of register. So I can click on, there's a box here in the middle. I can click on that and warp the middle. So there's some kind of funky things you can do with your image, make it look real crazy. If I like the way it looks, when I'm done, I can hit the checkbox here to keep that setting, or I can hit the X to delete it. I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. That's too crazy. Again, we don't want our image to look too unrealistic, right? You might want to add just a little bit of warp to it. I'm definitely going to add some rotation, so I'm just going to go ahead and rotate my image here. But we don't ever want to get anything that looks too crazy, right? So I got my image rotated. Let's see what else we can do here as we kind of explore this software, Photopea. So we brought our image in, we resized it, rotated it, we moved it around. We could warp it, right? So I showed you how to warp it if you want. So maybe just a slight warp, right? Just a little bit of a wave here at the top. Maybe just a little bit of a wave at the bottom just because. Right, again, unfortunately, it goes really slow on Photopea, but look at something, kind of make it look interesting. But I'm not going to do too much because I do too much, it looks too crazy, right? It looks too out of shape. So when I'm happy with that, I can hit the Enter key or the checkbox. And now that gave me this warped image here. Hopefully it'll save it here any second now. Again, one of the joys of working in Photopea, it just kind of works just a little bit slower. All right, next thing we can do is we want to change the background color here. So there's a number of different ways we can change the background, but one of the easiest. All right, sorry about that. My computer crashed, so I had my batteries in my camera died, which then crashed the recording. So again, we were talking about changing the background color here. So I'm going to go down to the rectangle tool. That's what we're going to use to go ahead and change the background. So I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. If you notice up here on the top, it says fill, and it has a fill color. So again, if we want to change the background here, we can choose our fill type. So I'm going to click on that. And if I click on this box here, it gives me a whole rainbow of selections to choose from. And I can even pick colors here from my image. So if I want this gray here from the image, it's kind of bluish color, I can click there. It grabs that color off of my image. So again, I'm just going with my mouse and I can go in here and click. I can grab the orange color here out of this Indian food, whatever it is, some kind of curry, right? Or I can go ahead and grab the blue from the table. That looks good. So I'll go ahead and use that. Again, this is the rectangle tool. So it's here on the left-hand side, kind of towards the bottom is the shape tool. It should already be on the rectangle tool. But if you click and hold, you'll see some of the other options, the ellipse tool, the line tool, custom shape tool. We're just going to use the rectangle tool. And we'll go ahead and just draw a rectangle that fills up the entire screen. And then we'll use that for our background. Now, as you can see, for me, it already went ahead and put it on the layer behind my image. I'm not sure if that was because of something I did or not, but just in case, if yours happens to end up on top of your image like that, you draw the box and it covers everything up. Well, what you need to do is go over here to your layers, right? So your layers are over here on the top, and the layers, you got to think about it like, I know back in the day we had transparencies, but you just think about it like pages, right? Whatever's on top of whatever else is going to cover up what's underneath, right? So right now, if we have the shape on top, then it's covering up everything underneath. So if we want our picture to be on top of that, then we're going to click our picture and we're going to put that on the top layer. All right, so now we got our image on there. We've changed the background. Again, if you want to change the color, you go back to the shape tool, or back to the shape. Make sure you're on the shape tool, right? And then you can click up here in the fill and you can pick a different fill color. So if I click here, I could get a lighter blue, right? And I could kind of experiment, see what kind of colors I like. I kind of like that one, so I'm going to leave it like that. Okay. So let's see, what else can we do? We warped the image. We added that shape. So we're going to add some text and some layer styles. So the text tool here in Photopea is about halfway down. It looks like a capital T. All right, that's a text tool. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the text tool. And with the text tool, again, our options along the top here for the tool change. First thing we have options to change is the font. What kind of font do we want? Looks like we got a lot of different options here. I'm just going to choose one. There's one. Again, you can choose whether you want it regular. So some of these fonts will have options like bold or italics that would be chosen here. Again, you can adjust the size. The easiest way to adjust the size is just to move your mouse over the word actual size and click and hold. And if you scroll to the right, you go bigger. If you scroll to the left, you get smaller. And then you have the color of the text. And so that's right there. And you can pick a different color. Maybe I want to grab the orange out of that food now, out of that curry. I'm going to go ahead and just click once down here on my image with the text tool. And it should create a text box for me. And I'm going to go ahead and start typing. And again, it's really slow on Photopea, so I'm not seeing anything at the moment. Oh, I see. It put it way up here in the very small, at the very top. I had actually embedded it into the shape here. So I'm going to go ahead and, here it is. So it was really small. It was up here at the top. So that's one of the things you really want to crank the size up quite a bit. So up to like 200 pixels maybe. Then you can actually see what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and type this as Indian food. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and I don't really like that font. So let me see if I can find a different font that I like. Sure, that'll work. Now, again, it kind of put it up here because I clicked on top of a shape. And so it kind of created this big text box the size of that shape. So I'm going to go ahead and do is click on the move tool. And that'll actually let me click this and move it around. It also let me resize it. So it's another way to resize it. And I'm going to go ahead and move it down here. And I got my Indian food. All right. So the last thing we want to talk about is layer styles. So layer styles are kind of some different effects that we can apply to either the text or to our images or really to any layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my layer here with my image. And I can go down here to this button that says EFF. All right, back again. Sorry. One of the joys of doing this at home, having little kids running around. So anyhow, again, as we're talking about layer styles, so down here at the bottom, we have this button called EFF. That is a layer style. So we're going to go ahead and click on that. Again, I'm going to make sure I have my picture layer selected because it's going to apply the layer style to that layer. So I'm going to go ahead and click on EFF. We have some different options here. Let's see. One thing I think I want to add to this is I'm going to add a stroke. So I'm going to go ahead and click on EFF and then click stroke. And this should bring up a window. Yep. So it brings up a window with all our options. It actually shows all the other options too. So I can also add a drop shadow from here. So this just kind of gets me in the window. So I'm going to go ahead and click on stroke. And I want my stroke not to be red. So I'm going to go ahead and choose a different color here. I'm just going to go ahead and choose black. And this is just going to kind of add a black border to my picture. I'm going to hit OK once I like the color. Then I'm going to go over here and adjust the size. Again, this is kind of slow doing this online using Photopea, but there we go, a little bit of size. Another thing that'll make it look nice is maybe a nice drop shadow. So I'm going to go ahead and on the bottom here, click on drop shadow. And I'm going to have to add a little bit, or I'm going to have to mess with the settings on this a little bit. Let's see here, change the angle, increase the distance maybe a little bit. There we go. Now I'm starting to see it. Increase the spread. So if you can see, it's just adding this little bit of shadow behind the picture here, so it kind of leaps off the screen, off the page a little bit. And so I'm just going to mess with the settings until I get something I like. There you go. It's got a nice drop shadow. We got a nice border on our image. And we're going to go ahead and hit OK. And I'm going to do the same thing here, down here for Indian food. I'm going to go ahead and add a drop shadow. So I can go ahead and click on EFF and again, add my drop shadow. Or actually you can kind of, if you go outside of the words here, you can double click, I believe, and it'll also pull up the options. And I'll go ahead and click on drop shadow here. And again, I'm going to maybe adjust these settings a little bit. Maybe not so much distance. A little less spread. A little less size. There we go. And that's what I like. So I'm going to go ahead and OK. Click on the background here. And that's kind of my final image. Now, again, I can zoom out a little bit. So to zoom out, you can go to Edit. And let's see. No. View. Sorry, View. And you can click Zoom in or Zoom out. You can also see it has the shortcuts here for you. So you can hit Control plus or Control minus to zoom in and out. Or you can do what I'm doing. So I'm holding down the Alt key on my keyboard. And I am scrolling down on my mouse. That zooms out. Or I can scroll up on my mouse and that zooms into wherever my pointer is. All right. But yeah, this is our final image here, just a little picture, whatever it happens to be. But we had a chance to mess around. We changed the background. We rotated the image. We warped the image a little bit. And then we added some text. And then we added some layer styles, right? We added that drop shadow. And we added that stroke around our image. So it's just a nice looking final image here. So now we're going to go ahead and save this so we can turn it into Schoology. So I'm going to go up to File. And we're going to go to Export As. And we're going to export it as a JPG file. So JPG is a JPEG file. That's one that's nice and viewable on Schoology. So that's what we're going to use. So I'm going to go ahead and export as a JPEG. 70 to 80% quality should be good. I'm going to bump it up to 80%. I want to keep it fairly high quality. And then go ahead and click the Save button. And then again, it's going to ask me where I want to put it, what I want to name it. This is lesson 1. I might put my last name in here so that the teacher knows who I am. Again, make sure you know what you name it and where you're saving it, right? That's one of the big things that when you go to turn this in, one of the most common complaints I get is like, hey, I don't know. I did it, I swear, and I saved it to my computer. And it's like, well, where did you save it, right? So pay attention, right? This is going into my downloads. So if I look across the top here, tell me I'm going into my downloads. If you're on a Chromebook, it's almost automatically where it's going. And then remember what you name it, right? The next thing I'm going to ask you is, well, what did you name it? And you're like, I don't know. And if you named it Untitled, right, then it's going to be hard to find. Or New Project, right? You're going to have a million new projects. We don't know which one it is. So you can make sure you give it a name that you'll recognize. So in this case, I'm calling it Lesson 1 and my last name. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Save. And then that file is what I'm going to turn into Schoology. And hopefully your teacher will be able to walk you through that. Again, you'll have to go to the assignment on Schoology, click the little Submit Assignment button, and then you'll have to look for the little thing that looks like a file. Click on that, and then you'll upload this to Schoology. All right, well, it's been fun. I hope you enjoyed this project, and we'll see you next time.